Recording in progress.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Film Maudit 2.0 2022 edition. I'm so excited to be here today on this lovely sunny Friday. And joining me today is Iosu Vakirizo, who is the amazing filmmaker behind the outrageous life in the XXI, aka 21st Century. So I am just absolutely I love your film.
Thank you.
I think I'll tell you this. I'm the one who saw it first on I believe it was Fest Home. I watched it and I sent a message to Patrick and I said, "This film is so weird, but it's so incredibly enjoyable to watch."
I'm glad.
Like I just could not stop watching your film. It kind of
Cool.
lulls you into this. You want to keep watching more. So
Glad to hear.
it's an outrageous film with a pretty crazy idea. It's kind of a mix of genres. So, Iosu, please introduce yourself as a filmmaker and an artist, and then tell me where you're calling from, and also a little bit about your film.
God, I don't really know how to introduce myself. I'm Yosu Bakarito. I come from the Basque Country, but I live in Oslo, in Norway. And this is where we shot the film. And I don't know. I've been working on. I've made a few films before, but this is the first one that I'm actually like really proud of. And I make music as well. I made all the music for the film, and I guess that's my main thing. I make music and films. Sometimes working in the arts in other areas as well. Mostly those two things. Um, yeah, I forget if you said anything else I had to talk about. Um,
No, that was it. That was it. By the way, is your microphone moving? Because I hear like some disruption. Maybe if you can hold
Perhaps
it.
is this it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that helps. Yeah, yeah. Because I think that when it moves, then I hear like the distortion, and then your voice is cutting off. Wonderful, wonderful. Well, Iosu, I mean, this is such an insane film, and I really want to know where does this idea come from? Like, how did you come up with this concept? And then I know that I saw in the credits that you and the lead actor, John, I believe is his name,
Joe,
right? John?
Joe Anderson.
Joe?
Yeah.
Joe? Yeah. So you and Joe kind of came up with the idea together, but you're the director of it, obviously. And you did the music, which is, by the way, phenomenal. So I can
Thanks.
totally see the position there. And tell me a little bit about the how you came up with this concept, and then how it went from idea to creation to post production to where we are today.
All right. So Joe and I went to film school together. He's not an actor. He hates acting, actually. And
It's incredible because he was so good. He
I know,
was
right?
like really legit.
Yeah, he really hates acting. But in film school, like we went to film school like 10 years ago, or more than that now. And in film school, everyone tried to get Joe in their films because he's a funny guy and he's really good at acting. And he really hated it. So for many years, he did no acting, and somehow I went to visit him. He lived in Japan for years. He's married to a Japanese girl called Mina, who was also in our film course. And I went to visit him in Ireland, where he lives now, while his wife was away. And we just hung out for a week. And we were always, the whole time we were looking for a project to do together while we were hanging out, because we always used to make films together, or music, or different things. And every day we had like a different idea of like, oh, maybe we should make like a little animation, or maybe we should just take a shit film and dub it or something and make it really funny, or make an album, or we had all these concepts for like, oh, maybe we should do this, we should do that. And I really wanted to make a proper film because I hadn't made a film for a while. Uh, and then all these things during that week, a lot of weird things either happened, or we talked about things that happened to friends, or We watch some things on TV or whatever that caught our attention. So basically, everything in the film is something that happened during that week or happened to a friend, or, I mean, with poetic license, of course, like an exaggeration, and you know, we made it weirder or whatever. But I guess like the seed of the film was one morning when he woke up worried about some growth that he noticed on his back. And he described it as a little tentacle, and he'd just been speaking to his wife on Skype about it. Uh, and it was nothing, thankfully. But as soon as he told me that, like, I was like, okay, that's the film. You have a weird, because we're also, because I'm a bit of a hypochondriac, and I had already been thinking of making some sort of something about hypochondria and fear of disease in a kind of Cronenbergian kind of way, with like some sort of personification of this fear or something. And he's also a bit of a hypochondriac, so it made sense to use this and turn it into something else. And like I said, a lot of the things, either they were things that happened or things that we were interested in, or stories that we told each other about friends in common or people we knew, or things like that. So yeah, a reflection of the 21st century.
I mean, I love that. I love that it all came out of little stories, and you know, and I think Joe's performance, like, you can totally see the hypochondriac in him, but it's so dry. His concern even about himself, the way he speaks it, is almost like, is he concerned or not? Well, he is, but just so cool about it, like, and I mean, there's this huge growth growing out of his tit. I mean, it's so weird and disgusting and strange, and you know, it's a little tentacle. And then no, I love that, and I definitely, yeah, I was gonna actually mention Cronenberg, because it does have a lot of Cronenberg vibes and stuff. So I mean, kudos, you guys put an incredible film together. I mean,
Thanks.
From the production design to the costumes to the ideas. So now, the leading character, let's start off with the you know, a little bit about the story and the leading character. So the leading character wakes up with this weird tentacle on his chest, and then we discover a little bit more about him and his strange relationship with his wife, who is, you know, taking this surgery, which is quite offensive and insane.
Yeah.
And not what any normal human would be doing.
Well, that was, sorry to cut you. That was based on a real person that we were watching on a TV show. So
wow!
That was based on
so
a.
There is people.
Yeah, yeah.
So
that was based, and we mentioned her name in the film. There's at one point in the film, Joe is Skyping with his friend at the end of the film, and he says like, oh, she just wants to be like Martina Big. Google her. Like, Google her. Like, she's insane. We just.
My God.
I mean, I was not so sure about using that bit, but Joe suggested it, and I was like, yeah, I don't know, like maybe that's pushing the envelope a bit too much. But by the time I wrote the script a few months later, that had grown on me, and I like the idea.
Well, I think that, you know, I was also like, when it first came about, I was like, ooh, now we're taking
exactly right.
And then I was like, okay, I'll just wait till the end of the movie and see if it redeems itself. And it did, you know, because his friend is just quite shocked about it and says, really, you don't think that's offensive? You know, that's really offensive. Go there and do that.
Yeah.
So, you know, her and also the way that his, because it's Joe's real life wife who's playing it, right?
No, she wouldn't do it, so we got someone else.
Oh, okay.
Well,
but the actress.
When it was suggested to me, he was like, "Yeah, Mina will do it, definitely." And then when Mina was told about it, she was like, "Why the fuck did you say I would do this? I would not do this."
She's like,
so
no way.
We got someone else.
Yeah. No, I think that the actress also, and your directing of her, like this kind of spoiled, over the top, you know, kind of a little bit of a cunt wife who leaves her husband. The thralls of a horrible job, which we will discuss right now, that is kind of funding her thing, you know. So her character is already so also kind of weird and just not really.
Yeah.
There's no word in English. It's antipático in Spanish. It's like she's just not a very sympathetic character,
Yeah.
so it works. But speaking of that, I mean, what's funding this insane operation is partially Joe's job, which is quite outrageous. So tell me a little bit behind that idea of this perverse, fascist type of online.
I guess that came from I knew a couple of girls that were doing that for like that kind of, not as weird as anything in the film, but they were doing cam shows for a living, and I could see how like that they're not close friends or anything, but I knew them enough before they were doing this and after, and I could see that this was having a toll on them, and they seemed a bit fucked up as a result of doing this. And from what one of them was telling me that initially you make a lot of money because you're new, and then they push you up on the listings or whatever. But then like it becomes kind of hard, and then she just spend like hours and hours every day doing this shit basically, and didn't seem like she was having a good time doing it. And I guess that came from those conversations, and I was interested in the fact that usually when men hear that this cute girl is doing that, they're like, oh, that's exciting and like great and whatever. So I kind of wanted to I mean, part of this was because we thought it was funny, but if Joe had that job, and that because Joe is no hunk or anything, like he would get just like really desperate weird guys that want really weird stuff as clients. But yeah, it also like what interested me about it was that it tried to give a perspective of what this is actually like if you don't, if you find no pleasure in doing this for this person, and there's nothing sexy about it from the point of view of the worker. So I guess that was it. That was part of what made me interested in it. Yeah.
It was a very interesting choice, and also like you mentioned, it was quite interesting to see a man doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's men out there doing that, but I mean, it's just in the film medium, it's usually portrayed as a female type of thing to do.
Yeah.
So I quite appreciated that, and I thought it was quite outrageous from the mayo not being there, and then the foot cream, and him just trying to haggle with the guys. Like the guys are just trying to screw him over at all times, and haggling over like €5, like it's nothing. But and it gives you kind of this kind of sense of what you mentioned. It's like, these jobs, they, from the first hand, they seem kind of, oh, it's easy money. I'm just sitting at home on a computer doing some stupid shit like him lifting the sock or something. But at the end of the day, it's time.
Yeah.
It's taking your time.
And it's kind of gross if you're not into, if you don't find any sexual pleasure and you're watching the other person masturbate, like this is not fun. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, for sure. Wonderful. So now what I wanted to ask you is, there is this amazing element throughout this whole film. And in the film, it's very obscure and weird and kind of, takes you from like the mini mystery to this like kind of shamanism to, just everyday, futuristic problems like today's world, of online, stuff going on, and even him searching online for his disease, like every time he gets sick nowadays, from the moment the internet came to be, when you feel sick, the first thing you do is go online, and then you think you have all these horrible diseases, but it's actually probably nothing.
Yeah.
So from all of that, there's this amazing element that is throughout, and it's connected to the character, which is the avocado with the pink goo. So I want to know about the avocado with the pink goo, how you came up with that concept, how you made it, the pink goo and the tentacle that like the pink goo comes out of. I want to know all about this special effect, or how you made this. It's amazing.
so I guess I think Joe was the one who suggested that maybe he finds some weird thing inside an avocado while he's trying to deal with this tentacle. I was like, I like that idea, like some sort of disgusting plant thing that could help him out. So I think that was his idea. But it's kind of it becomes hard to know who pitched what, because it was basically us just having a laugh, like telling each other like, maybe this happens and maybe that happens. I guess like what we like about the avocado was that it's kind of like a hipster fruit. Like so I don't know, somehow it's part of these modern times, right? Like I didn't have avocados when I was a kid. It's like a modern hipster fruit. And also, I mean, you could then find a weird plant inside an apple or a banana, right? Like it'd be harder. As to like how we did that, I made all the special effects myself. I spent several months before filming just trying to figure out how the hell to do all this stuff. The goo is mostly like sex lubricant mixed with neon paint, like neon pink paint, and some soap as well. And the rest is just mostly latex and similar material. Like I had access to a bunch of, I don't even know what they're called, like a bunch of latex equivalents that a friend of mine uses for casting vinyls actually and making records through casting. So it's a type of latex like substance that picks up like every pore in your skin, and it will pick up like super detailed stuff. So I made a model of the tentacle in Fimo and then casted that in latex.
Have you ever done this kind of stuff before? Like, do you have experience working with these materials, or you just kind of learned along?
Not really. I just had to learn as I went. I watched every interview with all the big special effects guys from the 80s and 70s and stuff. I've read every bit of information I could on like their books and all this stuff, and tried to figure out how to try to get ideas of how to do things. And it was a really interesting process actually. It was really fun. And it taught me a lot. I feel like now I could do it. Now I could, if someone needs like physical effects like that, I can make something really gross like quite easily now, because I've been
Well,
experimenting
you
enough
did
for
a
a few months.
wonderful job. You did a wonderful job. I mean,
Thanks.
the effects look really realistic and just unique, and just what I really loved about it is you had a lot of texture in your movie. And it was not just in the avocado and the pieces on the body, but it was also in the production design, and the props that you were using, and this kind of, it felt like this like jungle vibe in his house.
Yeah.
It was just so, it's a dream room to live in. So I can see that you're in one of the spaces. Tell me a little bit about that, and using your space, and the specific jungle design, and then also the textures that you use to give more of a vibe of this kind of like, it had a very David Lynch vibe too, in my opinion, as well, especially with the introduction of the twins, which we will discuss later.
Okay. Yeah, it's been described as David Lynch meets David Cronenberg meets John Waters. So yeah, I guess so. But so about the question was about textures and what else?
Textures and utilization of the production design.
Right. Yeah.
Textures.
Yeah. So we filmed it in my house. I live with more people in a fairly interesting, weird house in Oslo. So we have a lot of so that's our living room that you're talking about with the plants, and it's kind of as it is. Like we just added the plants. Like we don't usually have those many plants in there. We just borrowed a lot of the plants from my neighbors upstairs. Actually, they have loads of plants, and they have kind of like a jungle vibe living room, which is great as well. But I think like our living room is painted in a much more beautiful way and more interesting way, and it was easier to film in our own living room. So we just borrowed all of the plants, and that was it. And I don't know. I don't have a good explanation as to why I wanted it to be like that, but I like this kind of. I listen to a lot of exotica and stuff like that, and I like that vibe. I like that kind of jungle, tropical, mysterious kind of vibe. So I don't know. I sent before we did this. The cinematographer came from Ukraine, and is someone that I had worked with before in a different film. Not on my own film. We both worked on someone else's film, and thought I could work really well with him. So I brought him over for that. Uh, and before we did anything, I was sending him a lot of stills from old Japanese movies and stuff like that. Some French films, some Czechoslovakian films to have a look at and stuff like that from the 60s. And they all had this kind of, to some degree, that kind of vibe, like very, either, even if it wasn't like a jangly theme or anything, but kind of the Czechoslovakian stuff had a lot of like very baroque rooms with a lot of detail and very careful attention to set design. And the Japanese stuff had a bit more of a jangly vibe somehow. Um, so it was influenced by all of that stuff. And yeah, I don't know. Textures were just I just like them. I've always been interested in textures. I find that one of the things that attracts me to film most is the texture of actual film, which unfortunately I don't have the budget to use, or most people, like it's kind of disappearing. Yeah.
Well, and your film is shot so beautifully, the lighting and everything. Kudos to your cinematographer
Thanks.
and to your vision working with them, because it has such a it's like subliminal type of messaging, kind of trance vibe. It was just so whoa, like, and those sequences with the tea, like pouring of the tea, and just adding the sound of the voice, and the way that the shaman spoke, including Joe, because Joe has a very interesting tonality in his voice that is very soothing. It's almost like drinking a soothing tea.
Right.
And then the jungle around it. I mean, I was just like, whoa, like this is the life, And so speaking of that, what I wanted to ask you is, in terms of the editing, your choice in editing, and kind of I saw that you have both the footage that you guys shot, and you also incorporate footage from a stock footage, like we have a leopard walking in a cage and all kinds of stuff. So tell me a little bit about choosing to do that and adding those kind of elements to your piece.
The stock footage is a box of Super 8 film that I bought in a market a while ago. So it's just a bunch of Super 8 from family recordings in Sweden from the 60s or 50s, something like that. That I really like that stuff, and I wanted to do something with it. But the main purpose of it is, I guess, there is an explanation to hypnosis that basically you throw in something unexpected in there to tap into some sort of some subconscious messaging, and then you can plant ideas into the person, right? It's something like that. So I guess the idea was the same, that like if I throw something in there that's not necessarily like, there's a whole bit that lasts about 30 seconds or a minute or something, but it's just silence with like a drone. Well, there's a bit of a drone and just Super 8 footage for apparently no reason. Things like that are done with that intention. They add to the rhythm of the film. I felt like it made it so much more dreamlike. Super 8 also makes you think of like memories, and memories are kind of like dreams, and it kind of I like that it took you to a different realm, and it took you out of what's going on for a second, and kind of confused you a little bit, and maybe allowed for communication with the subconscious in a more direct way. And I do feel like I hadn't seen it for quite a while now, and I watched it with someone the other day, and it did make me feel a lot like like it puts you into a trance somehow. Like it's quite hypnotic somehow. Part of it is the music as well. I think it's very drony music that adds to that, and yeah, it's a lot in the
Yeah, do you
editing.
think, since you mentioned, I mean, the music definitely, I mean, the music is such a powerful tool to, to make the mind work in a specific way. And speaking of that, I wanted to ask you, since you come from music, you mentioned you're a musician, did that help you in kind of putting this piece together in such a hypnotic way that you ended up editing it in as, or because it's I mean, it feels like everything was done in a kind of almost like with this sense of hypnoticism. Like I said to you, I mean, I watched the film, and it's one of the very few films that no matter what happens, it's just so like enjoyable to watch. Like I was just like, whoa, yeah, sup,
Great. Thanks a
yeah,
lot. I'm glad to hear
you
that.
know. It had a very 70s element to it too, like a
Mhm.
lot of the, 70s kind of late 70s, early 80s. I think Joe fit in it perfectly.
Yeah.
So how does your background in music kind of help you as a filmmaker?
Um, I don't know. I never really thought about it that way. Just I think I take film more seriously than music, I would say. But they're both different, and I guess they both influence each other. Um, I think most of the music I've made or bands I've been in, people always say that it sounds very cinematic. So I guess I feel like film influences my music more than music influences my film. But the fact that I can make music to the film gives me a lot of freedom to to. I mean, I'm not the best musician in the world either, so it gives me a certain freedom to try to make something that works. It doesn't always, it's not always that I can find the right thing for it. Um,
But you don't have to. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like you have this amazing talent and gift in both, and I think it's incredible because you can utilize both and allow the instinct of one to the other lead to amazing artistic creations. I mean, it's
thanks.
just it's really, you have a really good feeling for it,
Mm,
and the sound design too, because there's music and there's sound design.
a
So
lot,
your
yeah.
ear is trained to kind of know these things that need to go in here, and then you created this whole, like I said, subliminal hypnotic experience. Your movie is an experience. It's not just a movie, it's not just like, okay, we're watching a movie and it's on the screen and there's a dead space in between me and the screen. No, your film is, I'm swimming in this film,
Right.
like really, like, wow, kudos, Yosu. Like,
Thanks.
seriously, I can't stop saying it because it's like, that's really how it made me feel.
Can I tell you one more thing that I think you'll find interesting? Because you mentioned all the shots of the hands with the avocados and all of that stuff. So we had a lot of problems making this film. We shot this in March 2020 as the country was shutting down for
Oh, yeah.
COVID. Um, and so Joe had flown over from Ireland. The cinematographer had flown over from Ukraine, and they both had to fly back. And they were going to close the airport, so they actually had to fly back 2 or 3 days our before our finish line. And also the so we had a few cancellations of actors last minute because of COVID. So, for example, the healer, so the guy who plays the twins was going to play the healer originally, and he had COVID, and he came up with COVID on the second day of shoot, which was the day that we were going to shoot that scene. So we found that we found out an hour after he was already supposed to be here because he had only emailed me about it and I hadn't checked my email. He hadn't called me about it. So we found out when I called him saying like, hey, are you coming soon or what's going on? Because he was already late. And then he was like, I've got COVID. Okay. And that was only our second day of the shoot, and we were already kind of becoming aware that we may have to cut this shoot short because they're threatening to close the airports. And then I had two guys two brothers that looked alike. They weren't twins, but they looked alike. That were going to play the twins, and one of them worked at the school, and everyone in the school had to quarantine because some of the students had COVID. So they couldn't make it either. So in the end, we ended up shooting both of those things separately months later. So we shot all the reaction shots of Joe and everything with Joe, but then the twins and well, not the healer, but the twins got shot months later, just by myself. No cinematographer, nothing. Just me and the one guy, because it's just one guy doubled up. But the scene with the healer, so the cinematographer who spoke very broken English, he plays the healer, because we didn't have anyone, and I was like, well, like I'd seen him on camera and I thought he was good on camera, so like I'd seen him doing like I don't know, like some kind of like podcast type thing before, and he was good, and I was like, okay, well, why don't you do it? And he was like, no man, like my English, this and that, like I don't think I can. Well, maybe that adds to it. Maybe the weird, the really strong kind of Russian accent maybe adds to it. And but we basically like rushed it because we were freaking out. We were struggling to get him to remember all the lines, and but we were gonna shoot it completely differently. Like basically the original idea was completely different for that scene. But then I didn't like the result. Yeah, I didn't like. There was some bits where we neglected like lighting a little bit because we were stressed out with trying to get this right, and I just didn't like how the scene was working. So a couple of months later, I shot all the stuff with the hands on my own, basically, and reshot all of that and decided to make it more dreamlike, and it worked. And that's actually my voice dubbing the healer throughout the whole thing.
Oh wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, I was trying to get someone else to do it, but because I knew someone that speaks kind of like that, like just kind of very slowly and has this mystical kind of tone. But he wasn't. He's a very busy artist as well here in Oslo, and he was just hard to get a hold of to do this. And eventually I was like, well, I'll give it a try myself, but I hate hearing my voice, so I don't think it's gonna work.
You did an
But then it was
job.
good. Yeah, I was pleased with it. It was alright.
You did an amazing job,
Thanks.
Yosu. I mean, you know what? I actually love, like, see, I've been talking to other filmmakers about this. Sometimes when like these, emergency situations happen, or ultra low budget situations, and then you have to think creatively how to fix it. And then when you overcome it, it's usually a much more intriguing choice than the one you would have made if you had a budget and everything was perfect. So
Definitely.
I actually was going to touch on that. So I'm glad you touched on it, because I was going to say that was the best moment in the film for me. And it was so perfect that he didn't actually speak. You could hear him, but he was looking at him.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, this is good. Yeah. This is so smart. I love it. It was just such an unconventional choice. So
no, and I agree completely with you. When you have an emergency, then you become more creative and you find a different way to do it.
Yes. Yes.
And and that worked really well. So yeah, I'm very happy that happened actually.
It was amazing. It was amazing. So tell me, Yosu, and what's next for you after this?
I'm not sure. I've still never received any funding for anything, so I'm still struggling to like, I've got a couple of like feature film ideas that I'm working on, like developing the script and ideas. And if I can get some funding for them, that would be great. Then I can make something like that. But if not, Part of me is like, could I make it just like I made this? I mean, this is half a feature film basically. It's the initial cut was 45 minutes. So yeah, like this was not an expensive film to make. It was just very time consuming, but it was not an expensive film to make. So part of me is like, well, maybe I could push it and try to make a feature that way. But I don't know. At the same time, I want to be able to pay everyone. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It
But
really depends on that.
This film could have been a feature film. I mean, I
It
think
could
you
have.
could actually maybe you can like shoot another part of it and add it and turn it into a feature, because like it's a pretty like deep story that you could take in so many different directions. You know,
Yeah.
you don't have to end it where it is right now. I think that maybe sit down with Joe again and see if you can come up with the continuation of it.
But within, I don't know. I worry that would be like the classic thing is like I forget what the film is. It's one of the early John Carpenter films that like it was like a really great medium length film, and then everyone was like, you should make it into a feature, and then and there's a documentary about it where they talk about it. It was like it was the greatest medium length film, and then it turned into the worst feature. So I don't want to
Okay,
do
well,
that. I'll just make
then
something
I don't
else.
know. You never know,
You
like
never
it's
know.
the things like this, you never know. But what you can do is, obviously Joe and you have like a good kind of, brainstorming type of thing going on. And I think that it's so crucial for filmmakers to have
Yeah.
each other and maybe sit down with Joe again and see what you can come up with.
Hmm.
Now, how long did it take you to shoot this film, like from the beginning and then with all of the issues with the pandemic and then to complete it? Like,
I think the main body of the film was 5 days, and that's practically everything except for the shots of the twins and their hands, like that.
wow, 5 days to shoot all that?
I think so. Yeah, I think it was just
Wow,
5 days.
you guys are amazing. You're so fast.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess we work cheap, so we have to be fast.
Well, tell me about it. I'm a filmmaker too, and then
Yeah.
actor and filmmaker, and I also do everything super fast, But I mean, 5 days, and it's a lot of footage and a lot of different shots,
And
and
special effects.
yeah, and special effects. And did you move lighting a lot, or was it like you set up the lighting in one way and then you kind of just try to
We
work around it?
uh well every scene that's like happening in a room is basically we light in the room to that be the permanent lighting.
Mm-mm.
So the living room in the daytime is basically just daylight coming through the window, and the living room at nighttime we just had loads and loads of small lights everywhere, like loads of small lamps here and there, and there was a couple of like proper lights being used, and occasionally like there's some shots of Joe during that during the healer scene where we're just testing lights, and the shot looked good, so I threw it in. But so there's changes of light mostly through test. I think like Pavlo Danilenko, the DOP on the film, he's really great for coming up with ideas and trying unusual things. So he was really quick at. Also, we ended up lighting most of it with two really powerful torches that have they have white light. They have like the right temperature of light, and we found this by chance in a shop, and we're like, oh wow, like this is. He was like, this is the right color temperature. I was like, okay, like this is really cheap, and they seem pretty good. We bought one, and then we're like, this is so good. I'm gonna go back and buy some more because this is brilliant. And they're kind of like spotlights, and you can make them wider or narrower spotlights. So we ended up we had some better light, like more professional lights, but we ended up using the torches for most of it because it worked really well, and it gave us a lot of flexibility. We could just like put them on like we used like mic stands to hold the torches, and then we just run with that. And he was doing really creative stuff. Like there was one bit where he put the torch through a cheese grater, and just that was the lighting setup.
Wow.
Just stack a cheese grater on the front of the torch, and then and that gave it. And I think that shot is in one of the montages in the film. I think where he's like treating the tentacle and stuff, and it kind of gives it the Blade Runner kind of feel. I don't know. It has this kind of small holes of light, and I don't know. It just it was interesting. Or he would be filming stuff through glasses, like just getting like a drinking glass with shapes on the glass and stick that on the torch. And also I used a lot of actually, yeah, you were asking me about textures. I used a lot of actual filters, like physical glass filters, that had like I used the purple filter through a lot of it. Uh, there's kind of like it has like tiny purple dots everywhere, and the center is clear, so it kind of gives this purple hue to the whole thing. So a lot of the scene, not every scene has that, but a lot of the scenes have that. Whenever he's dealing with the plant, has that basically.
Yeah, I mean it's incredible. It's just such a deep. It's so different and colorful, but like dark. And then with the twins, like there's like this kind of disconnect where they're like either super in the light or where they start coming in the night, and then there's this kind of shadow separator on them, and it's just like the lighting was great, and the purple hue. I mean, I loved it, and you added it also on the poster. Did you make the poster yourself?
No, I got someone to do that. I got a pro for that. I'm not that good at drawing.
No,
I can't be good at everything.
Me and posters, it's
Yeah.
it's not a good idea.
But I was
No,
super pleased with the poster. I love it. I love the guy. Like I wrote to a few people that I found that did posters, and I just went for the only one I could afford, and he was on the top three like I probably emailed about 30 different people or 20 different people, and he was one of my top three choices, and he did a really great price. I was like, yeah, okay, definitely, let's do it.
He did an amazing job,
Yeah,
and
he
he
did a
really
great job.
captured your film. Did he see the film before he made the poster? Did you?
No, I just sent him a. Yeah, I had an idea for what I wanted the poster to look like, so I said like if you want you can. I explained what the film was about, and I sent him loads of stills from the film, and I said like like if you wanna like come up with whatever you wanna come up, like I trust you. I've seen your posters, and they're fucking amazing. So like I trust your judgment. But I had this kind of idea that it should be kind of like this, and Joe should be in the center, and all the other characters around it, and the plant hanging, and all this stuff. Um, and I had kind of tried to do like a quick Photoshop version of it on my own first, to have like something to show to him. And he was like, I love this idea. Let's just do that. It makes my life easier if I don't have to think of my own idea. So yeah, and he hand painted the whole thing on digitally, but he hand painted the whole thing. There's no.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh
Which is amazing.
my!
He said he just puts the picture, he puts the picture of the actor on his phone, and then has a tablet next to it and draws on the tablet, like hand draws the whole thing
Wow!
on the tablet. So,
Wow!
yeah, that was an
Oh
amazing job.
wow! Yosu, this is amazing. I mean, you just surrounded yourself with such an incredibly talented team, and you yourself, like, it's not just knowing how to, not just being talented yourself, but also knowing how to pick the right people to
Sure.
bring your vision to life. So congratulations on that, Yosu.
Thanks.
I love your film. It's such a journey. It's such a hypnotic fantasy wonderland, dark horror grimy thing going on. I loved it. It's phenomenal. The actors were fantastic. The production design, the editing, the costumes, the twins, the elements, and I love the cat. Please tell me whose cats were those.
They were a variety of cats. One of them used to live in this house, but the owner moved away. So she doesn't live with us anymore. Another one, like the white cat in it, used to live in my old house, which is there's some image. The first two shots in the film is a big weird mansion that I used to live in a couple of years ago, and that white cat was in there.
Oh, beautiful! I love that you did the music kind of to the movement of the cat. And I love that you did that because it really made me feel like the cat was deliberately making those movements versus you just shooting the cat. Because you can't control a cat. We all know that. I have one. You can't control anything that he does. You know, even you go, come here, he doesn't come.
Yeah.
It's not a dog. You can't do anything with him. So I love that you incorporated that. The music really helped make it deliberate. And it was such an interesting choice having the leopard and the cat and then all this insanity that happened. So congratulations once again, Yosu. I hope this film goes to a lot of festivals. We're so excited to have it at Film Maudit 2.0. I mean, I saw it. I was like, I got to have this film. This film is genius. You are so talented and I cannot wait. I cannot wait to see what's next. So please keep being creative, keep making films, and I can't wait to see what you come up with next. And I think you and Joe, you need to keep on working this team element. This whole team, like everyone you had on this production, this DP and everyone, you guys need to do something again.
Yeah,
we will. Great.
Probably not with Joe as an actor because he hates acting, but he's good at sound.
But he's so good.
He'll help me write it, and he'll be doing sound or something. So yeah.
Wonderful. Yosu, again, thank you so much for joining me for this Q&A. We're gonna load it up and have a wonderful rest of your evening.